So let me see here. I think with no further ado, if our CEO is ready, I'm going to hand it over to Peter Robach, CEO of Sound Transit.
Yeah, and thank you all for coming. This is a very important part of our process in developing a vision for transit for the Puget Sound region for the next 25 years. I want to thank you all for participating. The public comment period is not just a pro forma action on our part when it comes to putting out our ST3 plan and soliciting public comment. The board of directors of Sound Transit and one of our very capable board members, Pat McCarthy, is here with us, and she'll give us a few words as well. They have been ruminating and taking input from communities all across our district, and all of them have been both where their regional hat is trying to do what's right for the region on the whole, but also where their respective hats of the sub-areas that they represent and are elected officials of. Pat has been, needless to say, hardly a shrinking violet when it comes to articulating the needs of Greater Pierce County. But this process in which we get to talk directly to the community on whether we got it right and how we can improve it is very, very important. And one thing we do know, we have a draft plan out there. It is a lot of detail. You can see these boards that are out here behind you, but beyond that, if you were to go to our website, you will find much more voluminous information for you to engage in and think about, and an online survey to allow you to give yet more comment back on what we got right, what maybe we didn't get right, and how we can improve it. One thing we do know is that the plan that the board will finally adopt in June will, in some substantive ways, be different from the draft. And how it is different will be informed by you all. So let me provide just a little bit of a backdrop of the plan itself. It's really built around two fundamental concepts, and that is that one is that Sound Transit is just one part of the picture of how we're going to improve mobility in the Greater Puget Sound region. We have representatives here from Pierce Transit who are a critically important partner for us in having an integrated mobility system for the region. We thank them for being here, but without the connectivity that Pierce Transit provides, we can only do so much. Secondly, the plan itself is really built around a fundamental truth that is given to us from the U.S. Census, and that is that as a nation, the United States is going to see some 70 million more citizens by 2040, but the overwhelming majority, and I mean overwhelming majority of those 70 million more people are all going to be located in one of 11 megaregions, and the Puget Sound is one of those megaregions. So the Puget Sound is going to see 1 million more people in that same time frame. Now think about that for a second. I will tell you, I did not leave myself. We had a meeting before here down in Lakewood, and I left myself an hour and 10 minutes to get from Seattle to Lakewood, and it was not enough. And I took a look at the HOV lanes as I was coming down, and they weren't doing any better. And superimpose on that 1 million more people. Then when you actually look at some of the data underlying where those 1 million more people are going to congregate, it's not central Seattle. There will be considerable growth in central Seattle. There will be even larger percentage growth in places like Tacoma, in other parts of Pierce County, up in Everett, on the east side. Because that could be some of the areas where there's actually potential for more housing to be available, and also housing to be available at a more affordable price. So we are going to have a great challenge on our hand as a region. And one thing I always told all communities when I was serving as the Federal Transit Administrator, when you're facing growth like that, you really only have two choices. It is to either be completely overwhelmed by this growth, or to plan for it and try and get ahead of it. This ST3 plan is our Board of Directors' attempt at putting together a draft on how we might get ahead of it. And the purpose of this meeting, and others that we're having all across the region, and our online survey and other mechanisms by which we're soliciting public input is really about finding out if we got it right, how we got it right, or we might have gotten it wrong, and how we can improve it. So you're a very, very important part of this process. Thank you again for being here. What I'd really like to do now is let Pat McCarthy, our Pierce County Executive and Treasurer Board Member, say a few words as well.
Well, thank you, Tacoma. Thank you, Pierce County, for being here this evening. I know we have some elected officials. We have the Honorable Ron Lucas, Mayor of Stellacum. Nancy Henderson, who is a board director for Pierce Transit, is here. Representative Jake Fye is here. Thank you, Jake. Jake was one of the legislators that really gave us the opportunity for us to go out to a vote of the people. So we owe a lot of credit to Jake and to Judy Clipburn and to a number of legislators who made it possible for us to go out and ask the voters whether they would support a Sound Transit 3 package. There's also a lot of cities that are represented here. I see representatives from the city of Fife and some of the other cities in Pierce County, so thank you all for being here. I want to give a little context. Several years ago, when I was board president, we went through the recession, and then we made a decision. We had a lot of big mega projects that we were currently working on, but the question was, do we want to keep moving forward? Is it good for us to move forward, or should we just complete the projects we have in our capacity to build, or should we keep moving forward? We had a retreat, and there was, without a question, for every elected person who represents each part of the Puget Sound, from Everett to Snohomish County to East King County, the city of Seattle, to South King County, to Pierce County, without a question, we said, let's keep moving forward. So the Sound Transit staff are phenomenal. They did a tremendous effort for doing a long-range plan. So we threw the net out wide. And a lot of you responded and said, well, I like this and I like that. And so we had a plethora of projects, potential projects, on all three modes, whether it was heavy rail, light rail, or bus. And so we took that list and we've been winnowing it down. You know, if you ever saw that movie, A River Runs Through It, and the dad sends him back and he has to keep rewriting that essay to winnow it down. So we've been doing that because we have to have a project list that can fit into the money that we will have available if indeed the voters decide that they want to support this package. We desperately need it. Your representatives down here in the South Sound or in the Pierce County region are Dave Inslow, the mayor of Sumner, Mary Moss, city councilwoman from Lakewood, myself, and Mayor Strickland. Mayor Strickland is currently co-chair of the Sound Transit Board, along with Dow Constantine, who's our chair right now. It's a great board. We're a federated board. So as Peter said, we wear a couple hats. We wear our very provincial hat, where I represent Pierce County, but we also wear a regional hat to look at what's going to be in the best interest of the entire region. So that means whether you have, like I do, have family in Everett or Bothell or Kent, or whether you work in all of those or any of those areas. So we have to look at it from a regional perspective, while at the same time we're looking at it from a specific perspective. But we want to hear from you. As Peter said, you have to start with something. You have to start with a plan that we've listened to you, we've come up with these project lists. I feel really good about the project list. That doesn't mean that I'm not open to making some modifications to it. And it has a long timeline, but folks, I'll tell you, with the kind of projects that we're talking about, to be able to do the outreach all the way across the region to build out the spine so that we have light rail. So we in Pierce County, we in the city of Tacoma can take light rail from the downtown station all the way to the airport like they can do it in Seattle. We want that, and that's in this plan, and that's a good thing for us. Eastern Pierce County is going to look at more capacity for sounder service. That's what Eastern Pierce County uses quite a bit, and it's huge. It's growing by leaps and bounds. So at any rate, I'm not going to blather on. We're looking forward to hearing back from you. We're looking forward to knowing what you have to say. I will say this. I've had this feeling of late that we have a struggle with civil discourse lately, that we can't be civil with each other. So I'm hoping that we can at least be civil with each other and have a good conversation. Give us all your feedback. We can always agree to disagree with each other. But please let us know what you think about the projects. Thank you.
She's going to give more of a technical overview of the draft ST3 plan. She's part of the planning group at Sound Transit.
Hi. Hi. Okay. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay. All right. Okay.
That is better. Good evening. I just wanted to echo Peter and Executive McCarthy have already done a really good overview of the material I'm going to present. But I did just want to give a first-hand account today of the importance of transit down here. A couple of folks from the office took a minivan down here with some of the materials you see. I took the Sounder train and I beat them, even though they left earlier than me. So I was able to wait and wait for them, but I also was able to look up stuff on my cell phone, so I can totally attest to the importance of transit down getting here. As was already explained, this is the overall ST3 timeline. We started with that wide net that Executive McCarthy spoke about in 2014, following permission from the legislature to be able to ask communities and cities within our district about potential ballot measure with a host of projects in them that will constitute ST3. So we're here today, the month of April, in Tacoma tonight and other cities in our district, asking folks about what do we get right, what can we improve in the draft plan. From here, our board will take all of this input in the month of May, and then in June, adopt the final plan that will become the basis of the ballot measure for action in November. So just to highlight, the system as it's listed in the draft plan constitutes 112 miles of light rail. That puts us on par with major cities across the U.S., including Washington, Boston, Philly, with having a system that expansive. Think about it in those terms if you've traveled in those communities. It would have light rail going to Tacoma, up to Everett, across from where it will be with ST2, the Overlake area to downtown Redmond. It also includes an extension of Tacoma Link, so we could have daily ridership of the light rail system by 2040 of around 500,000. You can see the range here. There will be a total of 35 new stations as well as improved stations in downtown Seattle. Another very important component that Executive McCarthy already spoke to is Sounder. South Sounder ridership just continues to grow. And so we include capacity within the plan for adding both additional cars and extending platforms to house those cars, as well as the potential for additional service. That requires coordination with our BNSF partner, which is currently underway, as well as looking for opportunities for bus on shoulder. This means when the travel lanes on I-5, for example, are full, making use where available, and this is going to require a lot of coordination with WashDOT and federal highways, making use of those shoulders that already exist. So using already funded public infrastructure to be able to let those buses kind of go by that congestion. We also have a BRT system on, bus rapid transit system on 405 and 522. So highlighting in the south corridor, kind of going A through all these letters. I won't go into a lot of detail. There's boards around the room and there's other experts around here that you can ask questions to. But one of the highlights is looking at extension of light rail from where it will be in the end of ST2, which is the Des Moines area, through to Federal Way, and then down to Tacoma Dome. We also have in the south, the 405 corridor I was mentioning to Marion. Within Pierce County, we would have extension of Tacoma Link, as well as potential for improved capacity on South Sounder, as well as an extension on South Sounder to DuPont. We also have a project in coordination with Pierce Transit for funding improvements on Pacific Avenue bus line. There's several staff from PT who can talk more about that as well. Also looking at improvements for bus service in East Pierce County, connecting to Sumner Sounder Station, as well as a study to look at potential future commuter rail service to the Ording area. This shows a little bit more detail for the light rail line that would extend from Kent Des Moines to Federal Way and then on to Tacoma Dome. So you can see their stops at Federal Way, south of Federal Way, Fife, in Pierce County, East Tacoma, and then the Tacoma Dome. This shows the extension, possible extension from along Tacoma Link that would go to the Tacoma Community College with potential station areas in the Hilltop, Sprague, Union, Stevens, and Pearl area. And this shows the South Sounder expansion to DuPont with a station in the Telecom area. This project would allow, in addition to Sounder extension, also improvement for the Joint Base Lewis McChord area to have access to high-capacity transit. There's a lot going on this slide, but to just kind of orient you, the blue represents projects that are already funded and are going to be delivered as part of Sound Transit 2, the ballot measure that was approved in 2008. That was a 15-year capital planning horizon with all the projects to be delivered in the 2023 timeline. One of the reasons we show this slide with the blue and the green projects, which are the ones we're here to talk about tonight, is because it shows that Sound Transit would be under a continual delivery of projects. So while we're having a vote in this fall for projects over a 25-year time period, it just gets in line with the other projects that we have occurring. So we had UW open a couple weeks ago. Angle Lake, the first station south of the airport, will open later this year, as well as additional improvements for shorter-term horizon that I mentioned, like bus on shoulder, additional sounder improvements like parking elements like that. With new stations in 2021 up to the U District, Roosevelt and Northgate. And then in 2023, Sound Transit will have projects opening north, south, as well as east, with East Link opening, Kent Des Moines, further south from the airport, as well as to Linwood. Then, if there's a successful vote, we end up with the ability to have, over the next remaining years, a system that will end up with 112 miles, with service to Tacoma opening in 17 years. That's how it's currently conceived within the plan, as well as the Tacoma Link in the final year of the plan. So that's a fairly quick overview. I just wanted to provide you with the main points. As Peter mentioned, we are looking at providing a robust system here in Pierce County, both for the modes that are operating now and ones that this project could bring to the Tacoma area in particular with light rail, providing that connection to the airport and points north, enhancing the sounder service, which is a mainstay for a lot of the communities within Pierce County, and maintaining bus service with ST Express in the interim while those projects come online. We have a lot of, as I mentioned, we have a lot of experts around the room to ask particular questions, but I'm going to turn it back over to Erin for a general Q&A.
All right, thank you. I'm not the person who gets to answer questions, so maybe Karen or Peter, if you want to come up in case we have questions that can be directed to you.
Just to remind folks, we're really looking for clarification questions. There are a couple ways to provide formal comments here this evening. We have laptops in the back where you can fill out that online survey that was mentioned. We also have paper comment forms where you can provide your commentary so that we can turn it over to the Sound Transit Board for consideration and conceiving a final plan. But with that, I will open it up for questions. My method, I have 2 human microphone stands. They will wander around the room. I'll start over on this side and then I'll work my way over. Is there a question over on this side? Sir, you had your hand up first.
Thank you. My name is Alan from Tacoma. Had, of course, known Wesley a long time. It's good to be here today because I worked for the Tacoma City Council for 8 years as a public assistant. A long time ago, I remember that when we passed this initiative, Tim Lyman, about the car tax, that it allowed Pierce Transit, or Sounder rather, to actually provide transportation. And that was, of course, at the ceremony 10 years ago.
Alan, do you have a question?
Well, yes, I will get to that.
Okay.
One thing I want to say is the fact that back then they said we would never have money in 2018. Now it has been doubled 6 times, and we're really grateful for that provider. Now, you mentioned that the city of Tacoma would probably be the last issue with the other projects that are going. I would also mention that it may be going along the I-5 freeway, so if I can get some clarification on that, I would really appreciate it. And again, I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so maybe the question is, what maybe is the route that is conceived of to go from Federal Way to Tacoma for the current extension?
I'd like to talk a little bit about the timeline, because he asked about the time, and I'll let Karen talk about the route. As far as the time goes, I don't know if we can bring up that last slide. That one, the route. And I think this is an important slide, and the reason why we dwell on it is because we're now really talking about asking people whether they want to, what we're really commenting on is the initiatives that are in the green. We've got a lot of work to do in the next 10 years still for projects that are already approved. So in terms of the early, you'll see is right up here, I'm going to jump up there. Tacoma is actually, getting light rail to Tacoma is one of the earliest light rail deliverables as part of this project. And that is in part as a result of the commitment that has been long-standing since really Sound Transit has been developed, and that is to deliver, to deliver light rail to Tacoma as part of this plan. Now, there are challenges. You'll hear a lot. I'm sure we'll hear more about it this evening, about the desire of many people to make the projects happen more quickly. We share that desire. In fact, we have an internal process going on right now on how we can perhaps improve on the timelines on delivering some of these projects. But there are constraints that I can talk about. Maybe I'll do it in response to another question, because I want to answer your question. But right now, actually, getting light rail to Tacoma is one of the earliest deliverables. It's kind of estimated right now to be between 15 and 17 years. But please note that before that, in the blue, we were delivering rail to Kent, Des Moines. Geography being what it is, before we can get to Tacoma, we first have to get to Federal Way. So we're making progress, but we will get there earlier in the plan. You want to talk about it?
We won't get to Tacoma by 2018. As Peter just mentioned, we are scheduled to get to Kent, Des Moines by 2023. So as geography goes, we have to get to that point first. And that is funded, and it's in that blue color. The second question I think you asked was about I-5. So for the Federal Way project, I-5 has been the preferred alternative route to get there. Within the ST3 package, we have costed it based on utilizing I-5 as a representative project. And what that term representative means, that once if there's a successful vote, we then have to go into an environmental process. And we have to be clear about the station areas, who can expect to have service. But the specific route between 99 and I-5 in particular will be one of the things that we've been studying in more detail, so that we would have what's called a preferred alternative picked for the route to get from Federal Way to Tacoma, and then that's what would be built.
Great. Why don't I come over to this side, sir, in the blue shirt. Justin will hold the microphone.
Yeah, I was just wondering, why is it it's going to take 3 to 5 years to add the capacity for the buses to use the shoulders? Is that something that the legislature has to make a statute can change on, or what's the holdup on that?
There are maybe 3 or 4. I'm going to run through them fast. I mean, I actually am excited about this because I think it is one of the nearest term and most hopeful near-term things that we can deliver as part of this plan that can really change people's commutes soon. And the benefit of it is the shoulders, by and large, are already built. But what I encourage you to do is next time you're running up and down the highway, or crawling up and down the highway, as I was this afternoon, take a look at the shoulder. It's not, sometimes in certain areas as you go under overhangs, there actually isn't a shoulder. There are areas where the shoulder is not very wide. The other thing is we also have to recognize that shoulders need to serve their initial purpose too, and that is to be a breakdown lane, or you're really going to disturb traffic everywhere. So right now there are pilots kind of around the country, most notably in Minnesota, on how to use the shoulder as a bus-only lane. But for us to really pass approval, and the real people we have to work with on that, I think, is not necessarily the legislature, but it's certainly WashDOT and the Federal Highway Administration. And I've already had a conversation with WashDOT and the Federal Highway Administrator in DC about this, and they want to be helpful. But we need to make sure that first, safety is maintained. And that may require us to do some additional investments to widen the shoulder in some places, to build turnout lanes in some places, so someone who actually has broken neck can get out of the way. And also put some sensors in the highway so bus drivers can see right as they're driving the bus that there's actually someone obstructing that shoulder a mile and a half ahead of them. And that's only the way we're probably going to pass the safety test to be allowed to use the shoulder for a bus-only lane. So while I'd love to say, hey, there's a shoulder, let's use it right now, there's more to it. And that's why it takes that long.
Right, sir with the plaid shirt, and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I got two questions basically. Number one, how many miles of track are you going to put in Pierce County? Number two, are the people in Pierce County going to have to pay fare for Seattle on those buses or those tracks?
I think we'll try and get you a number on the actual mileage of track. But I think the only thing that is not in Pierce County that the taxpayers of Pierce County will pay for, it's not just Pierce County, but when you build out a regional system like this, you have a number of what we call shared assets. So you'll have vehicles that are used in Pierce County that are maintained in South King County or East King County. You'll have buses that are being used up in Snohomish County that is actually going to be maintained in East King County. There's tunnels that all of the rails will use that will be shared by the whole system that all of the sub-areas will make a contribution to. But by and large, the capital investment money in Pierce County will be spent in Pierce County.
I drove Pierce Transit for 20 years. So I know about the shared assets. I know we used to run into Seattle, they came down here. We shared buses and things like that. But my concern is you're going to build everything in Seattle first, and then you're going to come down here and put us. So for all these years, we're paying into this money, it's going into a shared account. And it's Seattle first, Tacoma last.
Well, maybe we could bring the, it's actually still up there. Go back to what we had before. Like I said, when you look at some of the biggest and most ambitious investments that happen to be in Seattle, the most expensive by far and away is Ballard. And that basically requires the construction of a new downtown tunnel. We're going to be delivering Tacoma well before we deliver Ballard. That's the biggest project in Seattle. West Seattle is a comparatively less complex project that has the potential to be delivered roughly in the same time frame as Tacoma, but I can't agree with your observation that we're doing Seattle first. That's not our schedule.
They did that with our...
Sir, I'm going to move on to another question. Okay.
I can't speak to that. I've been on the job for 3 months, but I'll trust you.
I was driving the bus for Pierce Transit.
Sir, I'm going to move on to another person who's been patiently waiting. Sir, I'm going to move on to someone else. Ma'am, with the pink shirt.
Actually, elaborating on this gentleman's theme, I'm one of the red-haired stepchildren from Thurston County. Has anyone asked us whether we would be willing to pay a larger fare to help fund the DuPont station? Because I bet we would, especially during session. You'd get a lot of travelers who would pay extra, because there has been concern that we've heard from peers about why should we pay to get something to DuPont when you're going to use it and you're from Thurston? We don't want you fools. So we're kind of like, you know, people who live in the bad section of town. But we'd be willing to pay more. There you go.
Well, I appreciate your observation. We love revenue wherever we can find it. But I think importantly, you know, I think more broadly to your point, this is a regional system. And, you know, remember I talked earlier about a million more people? And one of the observations that happens that this region has really seen is the fact that for a while, population would increase 15%, traffic would increase 15%, and population would grow another 10%, and traffic would worsen another 10%. And then what's really happened, I think, all across the region in the last 5 to 10 years, is it's reached a saturation point that maybe population grew another 10% and traffic worsened like 35%. And don't hold me to those numbers, but basically that's the dynamic that you see. So you've got people who are very fed up in all corners. You know, we have people who come from all corners of our sub-areas, and some of them originate outside our sub-areas. They pay a fare. You know, there are some people who would like us to think about partnering with Thurston County to get all the way to Olympia. You know, eventually. There's one. But, you know, obviously that requires a discussion. We've got people who are interested in us running service in a KidSat. We need to have a conversation, obviously, and talk to the legislature and other places if we ever got that far to make that happen.
So, ma'am, the flower shirt here.
Yeah, my question is, I figured out from the chart up there, the extra cost and wasted time and gas from Everett to Seattle, which is a straight shot, would be $3,400 a year that you would save by taking the transit. Now, I was wondering, first of all, I assume that does not include your car insurance, your car repairs, the cost of the car?
That's correct. There's much higher figures for actually, if you actually didn't own a car, but for a great many people, that's not.
So with this in mind, I figured out if you take off, 5 days a week, take off 20 days for vacation or sick leave or whatever, and that's generous, it comes out to about $14 a day with just those costs, wasted time and gasoline. So I'm thinking it would probably be about $30 to pay for taking the transit and saving time and saving the money on the car and everything else. Are you going to be charging a decent fare that will cover the cost of it instead of making it like another welfare program where it's subsidized by the taxpayers for people who ride it, to ride it for, not what it's worth or what it costs for? That's my concern because I have never used transit in my life. I've always used my car. I've been lucky enough to work about a mile from my house anyway. And by the time this stuff is completed, I'll be dead. I'll have never used it, and I'll have been paying sales tax, property tax, and car tax for this stuff. To me, it is ridiculous, and I should not have to pay for what someone else uses, but they should have to pay for what they use, just like I paid for my car when I used it.
Yeah, let me answer a few of those points. There is, as far as the way we set fares are basically like any other business, sort of pricing is sort of set at what the market will bear. But let me give you one other thing to think about. I appreciate that you don't use transit, and that's true for a great many people in the region. But for those of us who are on the highway, it's just as I was coming down from Lakewood to, from Seattle to Lakewood today, didn't leave myself enough time. The fact that there are an increasing number of people using transit made my commute easier. And that's what's going to be true for a lot of regular car users throughout the region. This is not just about providing a benefit for someone who takes the train. It's providing a benefit for the region so that the region can have mobility. Let me give you another example. We're still a big seaports, two of the biggest container ports in the United States. And for them to be able to stay viable and for us to be able to move those boxes not just on train but on truck to get in and out, there needs to be some mobility around here. Those ports will be shrunk. Well, those are huge economic engines and huge employers for us. So decongesting the highways is probably critical to that port. Several port workers having their jobs. They pay their taxes, and even if they never use transit, it accrues to the benefit of all of us. So I think there's a broader way of looking at this than it's just, I get nothing because I don't use the transit system. I think it really is something that's, if we really, I'll go back to where I started. 1 million more people superimposed on the traffic we already have. What is that going to look like?
Where does that come from?
It comes from the census. Most recent decennial census.
How many years was that?
I think it's by 2040.
So,
but understand that this part I don't actually go to.
25 years from now, the population will be 1 million more.
Within the 3-county area comprising the Sound Transit Task District.
County, Pierce County, and
Sonoma.
Good.
But we're happy, I think you'll see some of the citations on our website, but we're happy to get it to you. So,
Ma'am, you just had a question.
well,
We're all in it together.
well, there are some people who argue that we do subsidize car drivers to a considerable extent. But I'm not
Someone's
I will-
been patiently waiting with their hand up, so the gentleman with the yellow jacket's been waiting with his hand up for quite some time.
I'm John, I'm Barry III, and I assist in head injury and did car driving. And I was on a bike and they hit me and I remained the rest of my life with a brain injury. I can't shake it. And I am very grateful for Pierce Transit from the bus system and Pat McCarthy. And I wonder about, is there going to be access for bikes on buses? The space, spot for a bike?
The short answer is yes, and we have bike, I think we have bike racks now on all of our services we turn out. There is also bike space for 2 bikes on each of the light rail cars that we use. Frankly, there's a challenge in terms of whether that's enough bike capacity, so we also need to provide for bike parking capacity as well.
My bike is a tricycle.
All right. I'm going to come back. I think we have time for maybe 3 more questions. I have a woman here in the stripes who's been waiting for comment.
I feel funny not controlling it myself. You've been here 3 months, I was born here. So I've been here 73 years come this Saturday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I've seen a few changes. I went to a one-room schoolhouse out where Bond Lake now is. So you can tell I've had changes. I now live in the area that's called the Tacoma Mall neighborhood. We were deemed high density back in 1995 with the original regional plan for Puget Sound. Unfortunately, there was not a lot of thought put into making us that way, and so now we are working on a sub-area plan to look at how the growth should not have happened and try to mitigate the problems that's been created so far. But we're going to be adding, I wrote it down so I can get it right for you. When we first started this, we had 3,000 residents. We're going up to 10,000 within your time frame. Jobs, we have them all. And we have light industry. A lot of people don't realize that we have light industry there in the mall area. But we're going from 7,000 jobs to 15,000 jobs. So I was shocked to see that the light rail that we're going to add, so you call it something else. You call it Tacoma. What do you call it?
So there's 2 things. There's the light rail from the airport that would come to Tacoma Dome, and then there's the existing train that's in the city of Tacoma that would go out. Right, that's Tacoma Link, and that's the one that's being worked on now, and then we have a plan, as part of the plan, to go to the TCC.
That's what I'm objecting to.
Okay.
Because you see, we got the growth.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, why did you decide that? Because we have the growth. We have the growth that's going into us, and it's being forced upon us that live there in our single-family buildings with our chickens. And yet we have all the high-rises going up around us. Why wouldn't we get the transit instead of a place that does not have a high residential population?
So maybe the question is, why was the project selected?
So, couple of things with that. One, your very question is the reason we're here, to get the input about how the plan should or could be adapted. We did look at a light rail extension from Tacoma Dome to Tacoma Mall. So the first part we would have to do is get to Tacoma Dome. So I think with Executive McCarthy here, and then thinking about the projects that are currently in the plan now and weighing those against the money that's available, what's the right balance? And so that is one we want to get your comment on. But I think that was the first part. We have to kind of get to Tacoma first before we can go to the mall.
I would just add one other thing, and I'd encourage you to, some of this material is on our website, and you correctly identified, I've been here 3 months, I'm going to try to move as fast as I can. There is some considerable challenges, not impossible, but given where the highway infrastructure is between Tacoma Dome and Tacoma Mall, in terms of gaining the necessary property, getting through the highways, and finding adequate places for stations along the way is challenging and expensive. It's not to say it's impossible, we costed it out, but it is quite costly, which obviously plays against other parts of the plan. But you'll see all that on our website, and you should respond to it.
I think we have room for 2 very quick questions. The woman in the pink has been waiting very patiently, up and down with her hand, yeah, and then I'm going to come back to the gentleman in the blue shirt. Very short questions, and then we're going to adjourn. Okay.
My question is this: if you would like us taxpayers to vote for this, you're going to need to explain better to all of us how this system that we all know is extremely costly now and will continue to be costly will benefit the freeways. I haven't heard any statistics on what the current system takes off the roads. I know it only runs in the morning and it only runs in the evening. I'd like to take the Sounder to Seattle on a Saturday afternoon and go shopping. It doesn't run for me, but I'm paying for it. So I'd like a better understanding of the volume of traffic that's taken off the roads and how that's going to continue to grow with this current system that you're proposing, this new system.
No, that's a very fair question. And let me take an IOU, because there's very good data out there in terms of both on the light rail side and the commuter rail side, precisely how many vehicles it takes off the highway. I don't want to give you a bad number. I'm not going to try to remember it right, but I believe there may be even some graphics on our website that lay all that. But let's get your name and number and let us email that data to you. Because I think it also plays into this issue about the saturation point and how saturated we already are. So just taking those cars off the road can help with mobility. On your point on sounder frequency and hours of service, it is something that's actually embedded in this plan and is part of the negotiation we're kicking off right now with the Burlington Northern and Santa Fe Railroad. Obviously, Sounder has to run on their railroad, and they have to give us, we pay handsomely for it, but we have to, in terms of the hours that we can run commuter trains and the frequency, we need their blessing and approval, and then we write a check to them. So, we are working with them to see if we can expand. This is just one of those things, like I said, I earlier talked about the seaports. They have freight traffic to move to also. We're trying to figure out if there's capital investments that we can make in this plan that would facilitate both and would give you better hours for Sounder, so you could use it for shopping. We've heard that comment from a number of people. Well, that's true. We've got bus services that fill those hours where it's not there. But we also recognize that we can serve more people if we can get rail frequencies, and and also people are accustomed to using the rail stations. I mean, I think if we can do both, great. I know the opportunity for us to run hourly service throughout the day at any hour is going to be a monstrous challenge and probably an unaffordable one. But we're trying to see what we can do to introduce things.
Last quick question from the gentleman in the blue shirt, and then we will adjourn back to our open house.
At the end of your presentation, you referred to ST Express in the interim. So does that mean de-emphasizing ST Express over time?
No, it doesn't. I'm going to let Karen lay out the numbers, but ST Express is still going to be a critically important service, especially for those areas where we are not providing rail. But, we also want to make sure that we are still integrating well with, like I say, our partners at Pierce Transit to make sure that there's adequate feeding into the rail network. Where this is up in King County, but one of the unspoken benefits that happened up when we just opened our new stations in Capitol Hill and at Husky Stadium is King County completely reconfigured its bus network to feed into the rail network. It freed up a whole bunch of buses to actually add service in other parts of King County. I mean, that would be an opportunity that will also come to Pierce Transit when we get more rail down here in Pierce. So, but our own Sound Transit Express bus service will still be a critical player in this whole mix.
That point was thinking about once the the Sound Transit light rail link is provided down here. And then thinking about smart as Peter described, not trying to duplicate what then has a rail connection with the bus system, but trying to be smart about how we still provide connections for folks to get to the place they want to.
All right, well, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. I'm sure we could go on and on with questions, but we did say we would adjourn back to our open house. I would encourage everyone to fill out a comment form or take the online survey. It is available on laptops at the tables in the back, whether it's here this evening or after you leave on your own devices at home.
And if there are more questions, we've got staff spread around the room who can ask the additional questions if anyone didn't get a chance to ask them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.